engage, reflect, laugh, get comfortable, be you, relax and chill, sweatpants and coffee chat, freshly brewed, nice and hot, come sip, let's chat.
Hi everyone, I'm Elle.
I'm Rouge.
And welcome to Sweatpants and Coffee Chat. So Sweatpants and Coffee Chat really began during COVID, and we just really wanted the noise to stop. The noise was so loud. There was so much going on that concerned not only us, but a lot of you, our followers, our supporters. And so we really just wanted to create a platform where we could just hang out and be ourselves for just 1 hour. So Sweatpants and Coffee is back and better, and now brought to you on this new platform. So we're super excited to be here.
Yes. And today's topic is going to be, is there a possibility for love after infidelity and mistrust? A lot of our followers on our platform on Instagram ask, is this even a possibility? So I figured we could touch on that and kind of get our different perspectives on whether or not, if you've ever been violated in that way, could you ever go and still be with that person, but I guess really be with that person, you know?
Right, like fully.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great question, and I think it's relatable for both of us. So no risk, no story, which is our motto, right, is very connected to our personal lives and experiences that we have both endured, and ironically, always around the same time. And for me, I guess the question is forgiveness possible, right? So I do believe that forgiveness is possible. I do think that when you invest in a relationship, it's difficult to just say, I'm going to throw in the towel because this infidelity occurred. Is infidelity acceptable? In my perspective, absolutely not. It's something that should be addressed head on. I don't know if to say if the person is honest versus being caught, if it makes it any easier to forgive or any more acceptable. But certainly honesty would come into play for me where forgiveness is concerned versus if you had to bust the person, you know, which in all full transparency, you know, I have had to do. And I will be honest and say that in that experience, because of how much I had invested and because I believed at the time I caught it early enough, I was willing to forgive because the common goal and our future mattered more.
Okay.
However, to say that I would have fully been able, that relationship did end because the infidelity continued. And I think what I perceived was the reality of the situation. It was a little bit more than that. So for me, I would have forgiven. However, I don't know that I would have been able to fully be vulnerable in that relationship like that again, because I think, you know, I'm not the type of person I'm not going to go through your phone. If you say you're at the candy store, you're at the candy store. You know, I don't look for a reason to believe that the person is lying to me. However, I was being lied to, and I was completely vulnerable and trusting in that situation. And I had to unfortunately dig to find out the truth, which led to, you know, this person being busted. So I don't know that I would have been able to go back to being the person that they fell in love with, right? Because you fell in love with I changed. The situation changed me because now I have to be on my toes. You know, I think that, you know, that's no different than as a parent. You know, we're younger and our parents trust us until the first time we violate their trust and we do something that makes them believe that we cannot be trusted, and then punishments happen. There's consequences. So I think naturally there's consequences involved when there's mistrust.
It's forgiveness, not to forget for some people too. It's like, I can forgive you, but can I ever be myself and be fully 1000% in this after this?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that now it has changed me. But I can still forgive you and just not be in a relationship with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that for some people is exactly what they do, right? But at the same time, it's like on the other spectrum, obviously, you know that I'm always the one that's like, even if it's broken, you can fix it. Like rather just replacing things and just being like, oh, I'm done with you. You made a mistake. I'm done. I'm walking away. I've always been the type that we can fix it. We can, whatever it is that you were missing, like whatever I wasn't doing, let's work on it, whatever. And at that point, obviously it changes me because now I'm like, I gotta be 1000% on. And I'm like, that's not fair because I was already doing my very best.
It's exhausting. So I think that you bring up an interesting dynamic, right? Which is like the redemption once you've forgiven. Mm-hmm. And I think that maybe, are you saying that you could forgive, but there's no relationship after the infidelity?
No, I'm not. I've always been the type myself as well. I've always been the type that even after infidelity, some time had passed. We did break up. Obviously, I needed time. I needed space. But I got back with him. I worked through it. I figured it out. But it changed me. It changed the way I saw that relationship.
Yeah.
I was exhausted from it because I had to be 1000% on. And then as soon as I wasn't 1000, I felt like, oh, this is the reason why he's acting like this. He's probably cheating again. And it's like,
right.
I can't live like that. You know what I mean? Like, imagine
it created an insecurity.
Exactly. Not only that insecurity, but then I walked into the next relationship thinking, I don't want that ever to happen to me again.
Right.
So now I'm gonna be 1000%, 24/7, 7 days a week, even on even on Easter. Like I'm going to be amazing, never slack.
Even on Easter,
like I'm gonna put on my Sunday best, and I'm like, I'm tired.
Yeah, that means you're not fully being yourself. You're not being your authentic self. And for me, I could not. If that meant forgiving and still being in relationship meant I had to function in that way, for me, I absolutely could not do that. I think that is harmful to me, my process. I'm not honoring myself because I'm not being myself. And it's so funny. After experiencing that infidelity, for me, I remember my biggest prayer to God being, and it's so funny, I just said this the other day, whomever I do life with, who I am, fully, organically, in all my ways, cannot offend that other person. And I think that sometimes you being organically who you are and whatever your experience is sometimes what causes the infidelity in the first place. Mm-hmm. That person is clearly not happy with you for whatever reason. Some people are just greedy, but I think in most cases, it's that the person is unhappy. And rather than putting in the work, by communicating first and foremost, right? I'm unhappy about this thing. I don't care if it's you're becoming overweight, and I don't care
if you change,
right. And I don't care if you're going through you could be going through something, right? Like I've gone through a transition where I had to navigate losing a friendship and grieving that friendship, and it impacted my relationship. In that exact relationship I'm describing, I was going through a grieving process, and that had an impact, right? And these are real life things that people go through every day. People experience loss, experience depression, experience discontent with themselves, physically, emotionally, so on and so forth. And so that's your experience. So if my experience is too much for you, so much that I cannot be myself, that I now have to yearn for that level of support and vulnerability with other people, whether it be a girlfriend, whether it be another man, because we know even with that, that's how it starts.
Especially for us women, we just want, once an emotional connection starts, most of us, if we ever cheated, it would be because of an emotional connection that we are lacking in our relationship, which people don't understand. And it's even at my lowest that I need you for you to understand who I really am, even at my lowest. And, obviously, I've suffered with postpartum and anxiety and stuff. I need you to love me through all of that. And yes, it is part of who I am. And I'm going to need for you to understand that part and lift me up and praise me and reassure me, whatever it might be that I need in that moment, to love me enough not to go elsewhere because I'm having a few couple of, like I'm having an episode or a bad time in my life. Like, why are you not there for me? But you're so selfish at this point. You're just thinking of yourself. You're not thinking about the fact that, but you touched on something too. Like now we know this, right?
Yeah.
Think about the fact that we did that. We were in our 20s. We were, just eating stuff and like going through the motions. We did not know no better, So we stayed with them. We're comfortable with them. We love them. We've invested all this time with them. We keep going, and now we're in a place in which now we know better. But overall, it's like we know how to navigate now. Back then, I did not. It was always like, I really want this to work so bad. I don't know. And I stayed there even though I was like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
I know for me, it was like that fear also, in that I just didn't want to keep starting over, right? I attributed it to my success a little bit, right? So it wasn't just success for me. And I talk about this a lot in my blog, right? We have to sometimes learn our ideals about success. So success, naturally, people always think about, you know, scholarship, you know, have you graduated, you know, college degree, what letters are behind your name. For me, because I come from a history of women with failed relationships, success looked like I can make a relationship with a man work. I can support this man through his rough time or through his identity crisis, which is, if I'm being totally transparent in my experience, you know, I swore this person was just, because it came so left field, I thought this person was just like having a total identity crisis. And while that may have been true, I needed to prove to myself that I could love him through his experience. And in the process, I truly was dishonoring myself, would have been, and I didn't even know it. So thank God, you know, they always say, you know, sometimes when things end, God is protecting you from the things that you don't even realize you need protection from. Yeah, because I would have stayed and I would have, you know, tried to be successful in that relationship. And in your 30s now, you start unlearning and unpacking some of the things that from childhood to present, you kind of adopt these, you know, ideals that sometimes don't even belong to you. You kind of pick them up along the way, whether it be watching a parent, whether it be watching, you know, sitcoms and thinking that the Huxtables is the way. You know, I know for me, I grew up watching, you know, the Cosbys and the Moeshas and, you know, thinking, well, that, you know, that's it. You know, that's what you're supposed to do. And so I think you bring a valid point. Like, you know, you shared redemption, right? And that grit, kind of like pushing through, and you know, I can be what you want me to be. And then, you know, it's a taboo subject, and I think it's not prescriptive. I think that everybody's dynamic is completely different and people have to do what works for them. But I do think that as women, as human beings, because it's not just women, I talk to male friends all the time that go through this, you have to be very mindful not to change who you are at your core to satisfy the needs and the desires of someone else. Should you push to provide that person the love language that they need in order to feel fulfilled? Sure. That's partnership, right? So we're in relationships with one another because we're friends. And I know, for example, when you're going through a bout of anxiety or depression, you need that positive affirmation. You may know, you can do it, but there's nothing like hearing from the people who rock with you in your corner and say, like, yo, you got this. Like, push, you got it, you got it. So it's my responsibility to give you that, right? And sometimes we feel like, well, I don't need to tell her that. Like, she knows it already. But that's not true partnership. So do I think that those things are essential? Absolutely. You should, and you are responsible for adapting yourself to fit the love language of your partner. But when it goes to the extreme whereby you are not being your true self, you know, can you try new things that are outside your comfort zone? Sure. But you certainly should not be changing who you are at your core.
Definitely. I agree. I'm at a point in my life where I can't do that. I just can't. It's exhausting.
That's boundaries, right? So knowing and identifying your boundaries also, I think, comes into play as to whether or not you can have a relationship after infidelity. Like, if there are some hard no's or just some things that you're like, that's just something I can't do. And sometimes it calls for that hard conversation where you have to decide, like, maybe this is not it. You know, maybe we are not good for each other. Maybe we don't serve each other. And I think that that's okay too.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by, like, being able to forgive, but being able to walk away because you already know.
Yeah, and it's just like, I love you, but no, we can't be in a relationship.
Because what you need, I cannot give you.
Right. And that's honoring your boundaries. And I think that is equally as essential as forgiveness.
So speaking of forgiveness, let's talk about exactly what they would need to do to even be forgiven. right? Like, what are the like for our male callers, obviously, or even the female callers? Let's be very real about the fact that women cheat too. Like, let's not act like they don't. But what do you feel needs to be done in order to be forgiven after an infidelity, after a mistrust like that, after such a big violation? And you know, obviously people will be like, I'm sorry, the sorry flowers, the sorry cards, the sorry text messages, you can see my phone, here's my password, and here's my passcode, and here's all my passwords. And is that enough? And how long does it take of having that in order for you to be forgiven?
So for me, I'm a little different, because I'm not going to say that those things are not important, but at this stage in my life, I really don't care about all that. I need changed behavior. First, I need accountability, because words of affirmation is one of my love languages, and accountability goes into that.
Yeah.
If you cannot acknowledge with no excuse and with no blame, and I did this because, I did this and it was wrong and it made you feel this way, and honor how I'm feeling, honor the truth.
Yes.
That's the first step for me.
Okay.
You must be able to be accountable for what has occurred, for your behavior,
your actions.
Correct. And then I think for me, I don't want the flowers if it doesn't come with some sort of changed behavior. If you are not creating a dynamic now whereby I feel safe.
How would they create the dynamic though?
I think that that's up to them. I don't know if I know how to ask for you to make me feel safe. I think that if, for me at this stage of my life, I don't really get involved in situations where there's not a building in terms of the dynamic and the relationship. Like, can we build towards the future? So certainly you must know enough about me at this point where you kind of know or are willing to learn what I need. And if you don't know, it's your role and responsibility to kind of find out, like to ask me to say, I need you to text me in the morning and say good morning and tell me
all your passwords. I'm going to need every single thing.
I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to seem like the psycho who, is like, I need A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the whole alphabet. And if you don't do these things, then I can't forgive you. I don't think that that's fair. And I don't have any interest in doing that. Or I don't feel that you desire me. If I say that to you, for me, instinctively, if someone said, I don't feel like you desire me, instinctively, I would say, okay, let me create, moments where now this person feels desired, whether that's date night, whether that is like intentional, use of time, including you more, physical contact where maybe, because sometimes that's missing, right? Where it's like, if you're not physically touching, embracing, and loving on that person physically, that could lead to a person feeling undesired. So I think that if someone said, I need to know that you desire me and that's what I need, I feel like that's enough for me to try and now learn or apply what I know about the person, enough so to give them what they need to feel better about what has just occurred.
Yeah. But in retrospect, then the cheater is going to tell you, let's say, I don't feel desired, then it becomes your job to make sure that he does feel desired and he's the one that violated. So then now it looks like you're working at something that... So to me, the violation already occurred. You get what I'm saying? So does it look like work for you?
And that brings in a whole nother dynamic.
Right? Because at this point, if you think about it, you're going to ask him, why did you do this?
You don't get to flip this on me.
And he's like, because you're always so busy, you never make time for me, you never this, you never that. It's going to be the reason as to why he did this. There's no way he's going to be like, I did this because I just felt like it. But if he was to do that, does it become your job? And that is what I mean by like, what do they need to do? Because it looks like, if that's the case, it looks like what I need to do to make sure that you don't ever cheat on me again.
I'm not going to lie. I feel a little triggered by that.
Like,
I feel a little triggered by that question, because I can't contradict myself. I do believe in partnership. And I think that if there's something that you need to own, and if I'm being honest and I'm reflecting back to my own experience, there were some things I needed to own and I was willing to own it. But I can't help but feel a little manipulated when someone has done me wrong, and now there's this demand on me to not only heal from what you've done, but then I now have to be on, and I now need to like strap on my boots and figure out how to give you what you need for us to be better. I think that is hard, and I think that for me, I would presume that the healing has to take place first. Like, I don't know to say I'd be able to heal and be amazing. Yeah, like, I don't know if I can do both. And that's just me being honest. And again, that's boundaries. Like, and I would have to be honest with that person and say, like, I don't know if I can do that. And so this is why it begs your initial question. Can you be in relationship after infidelity? And I don't want to say it's impossible, because, you know, we think about generationally, we're part of a generation where you're done. You're done, moving on. In the 60s and 70s, when I think about, you know, my grandparents and like the things they endured in relationship, when I was growing up, my grandparents lived in separate bedrooms. No matter what, they were going to stay together because they were married. And there was infidelity, and there was cheating, and she stayed. Yeah. And she stayed knowing, because I think at some point in time, traditionally, it was like, we figure it out at all costs. Yes. Our generation.
I love the concept of that, but how far is too far? You know what I mean? Like, how far is too far to sit back and be like, we're going to go through everything together. I'm going to ride with you forever, because that is the sanctity of marriage, right? Like, that's ultimately the sanctity. Through thick and through thin, through
that's so hard.
Sickness and health. And I want to ride the wave with you. When it's bad, it's bad. When it's good, it's good. I want to do life with you. Life is not always going to be good, and life is not always going to be bad, right? Yeah. So we go through with that marriage with the intention of going through bad and good, right? But then you do me wrong. You violate me in a way in which, if you were so unhappy, I would have rather you just tell me, like, I need more time from you. I need more this from you. I need more communication, you know, in that way. I've come to a point where I'm just like, just tell me what it is. Like, I would, before you violate me, and I can never go back from that, I would rather you just tell me, like, hey, Lex, I need more time. I need for you to love on me some more. I want to connect with you some more. I need alone time with you, you know, because obviously I have a child and we have kids, you know, stuff like that. Like, I would rather you just say, look, I feel disconnected from you, whatever, before you go and violate me. Because at that point, now I got to do double the work.
And I think that kind of ties into communication, which is one of the number one reasons why relationships don't work. Because sometimes people don't have the words to articulate what is wrong or what is not happening for them. But they know when it's fulfilled because it's attached to a feeling. And so naturally, as humans, right, we know what it feels like. We know when it doesn't feel good, and we know when it feels great. Yeah. But sometimes we don't know how to say, just like a child, like, we have to teach them those skills. Yes. And sometimes even as adults, it's a skill that's not fully developed. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes people just don't know how to say, this is what I need, or this is missing, or I can't put it into words, but something's off. And I think that we owe it to our partners to do better with that. And I mean, going back to, you know, traditional values, I mean, I am of the mindset that I'm team figure it out. Me too. However, I will be transparent and say, in experiences of extreme distress and extreme hurt, not once and probably not even just twice, I think that you adapt this, because those people also got married very young, generally. Traditionally, folks were getting married extremely younger. We're in our 30s already. So now you've developed like a scab almost, where now there's some things that are like non-negotiables for you. And for me, I've also been married. So when you, and I have several friends who are like second time around in terms of like love and, you know, not reconciliation, but considering and still putting value in love and marriage, right? Like, I would get married again. There's some things that you're very clear about that you you put a hard stop on anything that reflects a repeat of your past or reflects what you just don't want. And I'm not saying that is right.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
But again, it's a boundary, something that you honor your boundary. Don't get me, I am rather flexible, but there are some things for me that are just absolutely not. Like for me, I'm interested in partnership. We can do this. I cannot do this. I refuse. And that comes from things that I've done in the past. And anything that reflects me pulling on a person all the time, don't get me wrong, you're going to have some low moments and you're going through something and it may look like, they say a relationship is 50-50. Really and truly, they're 100-100. But if you're not 100 and I should pull while you are working to build back. Yeah. You could be going through something again. Like we said, people experience loss and discontent and unhappiness, and those things happen, and I should rock with you no matter what. Yeah. However, I certainly cannot carry someone else's load, which I got married when I was 21, and in my marriage, there was a lot of that happening, and a lot of that was because we were young. But I see a lot of people go through that where you're carrying someone else emotionally and financially, and that's too heavy for me. Yeah, because I know myself. I've become acquainted with who I am as a woman, and I'm a lot, all by myself, and I stand boldly in that glory. And so that means that I must attract someone who is equivalent to that. You know what I mean? Someone who is able to lock arms with me and we can push forward. And again, doesn't mean that because I have low moments, I have seasons that last months, in some cases years, 2 that I can remember, 2 consecutive years of me just going through. And
it's definitely an understanding of somebody, for sure. Understanding what you need, what you don't need, how to maneuver in a certain type of way, what you need at the low, what you need at the high, and being able to vice versa reciprocate that back to your partner.
And once you discover that, it's your role to communicate that.
Yeah, I would just rather you be able to communicate that with me before you violate me, because now I'm working double hard. Now I got to make sure you never cheat again. By being on 24/7, I'm exhausted from that. I'm exhausted from the stuff already happening in my normal day-to-day life. So now I got to work more because you cheated.
And that comes with maturation, I think. Yeah. I think we have to acknowledge that, there's always the next level in terms of, our experience and, how we mature with experiences. But I think it all kind of it boils back to a level of communication. And communication, I think, is what creates trust. And so maybe that also answers your question.
And vulnerability too, because not only when you communicate, I'm gonna need you to communicate your honest feelings too. Like, don't tell me what I want to hear, because I'm not interested in that.
And people naturally just
that people pleasing thing. Like, I have done that for so long that I'm just like, yo, I'm exhausted. Not only am I exhausted from really feeling my real feelings, now I'm exhausted from having to express feelings that aren't really real.
Yeah.
By masking. I'm okay. Right. I'm fine. I'm okay.
Naturally,
I'll be okay.
We learned that from childhood. Good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm good. You never hear no kids say, tired, stressed, my mama is whipping me. You know what I mean? Like, you don't hear that part. You hear,
and we have to start normalizing that. Like, I'm feeling it today, but I'm pushing through. And I think that comes again when we just talk about that unlearning stuff. Like, there are so many ideals, and just put it on. Right. Make sure you smile, even when you don't want to. And I'm like, that's the most exhausting part. And in a relationship, I don't want to have to do that. Where did you learn that from?
What?
Just put it on. Put on the face.
I won't lie to you and say it wasn't something it was like one instance. But I will tell you that during my dance career, during my high school days, during dance with DMC and dance ensemble. Even if I didn't feel my best, I had to perform and rise to the occasion. I could be feeling like pure crap. I remember I had a high school boyfriend, which you know who he was. We had the biggest fight right before a performance. I had to kill it, and I was in tears.
5, 6, 7.
I was in tears right before going on stage. So I already knew that there was a time and place for this. And when this is happening, you mask it good, you're happy, and then when I got off that stage, I went to my mom and she was like, "You did so good." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." Went home and cried myself to sleep because I was so depressed. But what really was happening, I was really sad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because my actual life was like in shambles at this point, right? And then it happened to me again in a different instance where I was like, I had a whole kid, right? So I had postpartum. So it was, I have to be happy and I don't want my kid to be sad, to see me sad. I don't want him to see me cry all the time. And so I'm pretending that I'm, you know what I mean? It's like you learn this thing from different instances because there's somebody that you have to like prepare for, you know what I mean? And no, that person cannot see you like that because that messes up that person. Now that person's day is messed up. Now that person, so it's something that has been constantly throughout many different types of instances that's happened to me. So it's one of those things where it's like, that's the part where I'm just like, we do that people pleasing and that putting on a face, we do that all the time. Think about when you go to work. You could be depressed, broke up with your boyfriend the day before. You got to go to work at 9 a.m. and they're like, "Good morning." You say good morning. You go to your desk and it's nobody is going to ask you how. You know what I mean? Like everybody's going to be, everybody's gonna be like, "You okay? You good?" Nobody really cares, right? Like they say good morning, how you doing, just because that's like a word vomit that you do at 9 a.m. Right? You do it all the time. And I don't want to do that in a place in which I am supposed to be my authentic self and you're supposed to be my peace. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to be my peace. I want to be able to, that's my best friend. Like, I would want my relationship to be my best friend, right? Like, I have a best friend, you know what I mean? Obviously, they can't be my everything, but just a best friend where I know I can come to you low, happy, sad, excited, and you got me. You know what I mean? If I got to do I'm good all the time to you.
I don't want to put on tap shoes for my partner.
No, I do not want to tiptoe around and perform all the time. And then, because if I'm not performing, then you're going to go elsewhere because I'm not the happy-go-lucky that you know of. That's not fair.
So the question still remains. And I feel like this is going to require a part 2.
True. Good. Maybe I could get somebody else involved too, like an actual man who has cheated, and see
that's good.
Whether or not any of the relationships that he's cheated on actually have been successful, and what did he have to do to actually get to that point? Because the amount of work I believe that would have to have happened is growth, maturity, accountability.
I want to hear from a woman who's cheated too.
Ooh.
And I do wonder.
Yeah.
Again, because we touched on a couple of things. So we know that there's like the traditional value of relationships where it's like you work through anything, you power through anything. Okay. So we've established that we both believe in that.
Yes.
Right.
Very much so.
Okay. Then we have, can you forgive? The answer to that, we both said, yes, you can forgive. The question still remains, can you be in relationship, people? Can you be in relationship after mistrust and infidelity? And we want to hear from you. So let us know. Definitely subscribe to the channel. Drop us a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are. And we're definitely going to bring you a part 2.
Definitely.
And we need to hear from some folks. Is it real?
I enjoyed that conversation. I definitely did. And I don't know, I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. But I promise you, like, this has got to be one of the most talked about topics in like girl time. And like, think about how many people would relate to this situation. Like, can I really move past this and really be successful in a real relationship? So we're definitely excited that you guys came today. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. We appreciate it so much. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to comment below. Thank you so much.
Bye.